now that it's the 11th day, I can drink alcohol again.
Oh dear.
But I don't really feel the need to drink alcohol.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, is this about to be a very interesting episode?
No.
Extremely. Let me tell you something else. Okay. No. Well, I saw you were drinking something. What are you drinking? You have something fancy there.
Oh yeah, I have a Java chip frap. I wanted to treat myself after being on antibiotics.
Oh, I hear you. Me, I'm going the classic Pedialyte.
Good choice.
That's where I'm at right now. So, all right. So here we go. We're just going to have a great time talking about a very good and heartbreaking and bizarre movie.
This podcast is about why horror scares us. What deep, dark, secret, scary cinema shines a light on. The discussions are frank and involve conversations about abuse, trauma, and mental health. There are also spoilers, so keep that in mind too. Now, sharpen your machetes and straight razors, because this is Cutting Deep into Horror.
Welcome, my dear friends, to Cutting Deep into Horror. You have to like really hit on the deep or it doesn't work. I'm, of course, Enrique Couto here with...
Your girl, Sweet and Spooky.
Salise. And Salise and I, for different reasons, both had tummy ailments. Mine was caused by a stomach flu, and yours was caused by a very friendly antibiotic, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
I like to call things like that annoy us that are not alive. I like to call them friendly. I always find that amusing. Oh yeah, and then I busted my knee on a very friendly coffee table, you know. And tonight we're going to talk about Possession, the 1981 kind of Polish movie. And before we jump into it, though, literally as we were setting up to record, we got our first email.
No.
Yeah, for reals.
I've never heard that before. I feel fancy.
I'll tell you right now, we don't get a ton of emails because, you know, people have to have something to say to email in. Otherwise, although I appreciate everybody who takes the time to say like, hey, just want to say huge fan, love you. I mean, I love that. Thank you. I'll take 1,000,000 of them. But I very much like being, told I'm good. But we got this email in over Patreon from Christy Gordon. And Christy sent in a nice little letter that I wanted to read at the beginning of the show because she wrote in a fan letter after one episode. So I was like, she gets optimal placement. We're gonna read her letter. So like I said, Christy Gordon says, I had listened to the new show Cutting Deep. I think it's a great addition. That episode had me thinking about movies I found creepy when I was young. My top three would be Watcher in the Woods. I do like that one, and that is a creepy one. Oh man, we're gonna work on you. Don't worry, we'll get you where you need to be. Number 2, Lady in White.
Okay,
I like that one.
Yeah.
And then number 3 was Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Okay,
that one I could really see scaring you as a kid, especially.
Yeah, for sure.
She put, not overly scary movies, but I remember having dreams about them after watching them. Well, that means they left an impact, for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Let's see. I think I was/am always more creeped out about potential hauntings or things involving affecting the mind or soul. Hereditary would be one of those movies. I like hearing about other things you had both watched as well, always looking for suggestions. Well, we have a very morose suggestion this week for you. One I have watched recently and enjoyed is Girl in the Mirror on Netflix. Have you watched that? I haven't had a chance. Have you seen it?
No, I don't actually know what that is.
It's apparently it originated from Spain with the original title being Alma. So yeah, well, that sounds really good. I call my girlfriend me Alma. So it's like, I don't want her to find out. I don't want her to figure that out. But then she ends the email with, anyway, thanks for the continued year-round spooky content from stories to news to history to films.
Aww. That's
Thank you, Christy.
Sweet... No,
yeah, we have the nicest audience at Weekly Spooky, and every time I try something new, like a new type of program or whatever, they tend to love it, and I'm really thankful.
Aw.
So, but that surprised me. Literally, I got that email while you were getting on the call. So,
Oh, yay!
yeah. So, I mean, that is hot off the presses, and when she hears this on Friday, she'll hopefully jump up in the air, and then it'll freeze frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. So, all right. So we're going into Possession from 1981. This is a film that I could see triggering lots of feelings of dread. Also, I'd be remiss to not mention you are wearing the Possession drip.
I am. Look at how beautiful.
That is I mean, I love that design.
Yeah.
The
so
design,
pretty.
it's the poster's like the movie. It's beautiful and kind of sexy and also WTF.
Yes.
It's just like the film is.
Yes.
But this is directed by Andrzej Żuławski,
Yes.
who's Polish. And I don't know why I needed to mention that, but I did. Actually, I do know why, because I think there's a lot about his country of Poland in this movie.
There is. I read about that. Yes.
Oh, goodness. So I'd love, since this is one of your top faves, I'd love for you to give as best you can a description of what this movie is.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. In the hot seat now.
A description of what this movie is.
Yeah. Like, how would you describe it to somebody in as, not as few words as possible, but also, concisely?
But do I want to tell them how crazy it is, or do I want to trick them?
I don't think, well, the nice thing about Possession, I was told this movie's crazy, this movie's insane, but I had no idea how strange it was going. Like, the things that happen in this movie, and there was a spoiler alert at the beginning of the show, so I don't feel bad saying anything, but like, the shocking elements of this movie, I would never in a million years guess is going to be what happens. Somebody's not going to be like, it's a movie about a divorce, but not really, because it's really this terrifying hellscape of, and I'd be like, yeah, tentacle things that have sex with the wife. I know. I get it. A weird breakup movie. I understand,
It's Midsummer again.
Oh dear.
One of your favorites.
Oh yeah. No, one day we're going to do that, because I'd actually like to revisit it, and maybe you can turn me around on it. I'm not one of those people that digs my heels in. I want to like movies. Usually when I watch a movie for the first time and don't like it, I'm like, it was probably me. That's the way I look at it. So, I've always believed there's no bad movies, only bad audiences. So anyway, so you would describe it as, go on. You're trying to escape by knowing I'll talk too much if you ask a question.
I would describe it as a woman who gets tired of her home life and leaves her family for no one knows why. And then her husband is very determined to find out why, and lots of crazy things ensue.
And the best part is, saying lots of crazy things doesn't spoil it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, have you seen the Sicario movies?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, Sicario? They're movies about the Sicarios, the drug cartel.
Oh.
They're more recent action movies. There's Sicario and Sicario Soldado. They're both very, very good. I think you would really like them. I mean, they're just cool action movies with a big Mexican bent.
Nice.
But one of my favorite things about Sicario is whenever people are like, oh, should I watch Sicario? I'm like, let me tell you something. Everyone dies, and I didn't spoil it. Because that's like, because so much happens to lead to those deaths that hearing they all die really doesn't spoil anything. That's how I feel about Possession. I feel like I was never truly prepared. So it is like a breakup movie of the ages. I do, after watching it a second time, I do think that the wife suffers, and please disagree if you do, the wife suffers from being a little one-dimensional at times.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree. Yeah.
But I think that's okay. Not every character needs to be perfect. She drives the entire plot. So her, and honestly, she's supposed to not make a lot of sense, because the vibe is that she just up and wants to ditch her husband for no apparent reason. And yeah. I know a lot of men feel like that is what happens when they get dumped. Even if there were red flags, even if there were signs or whatever, often men feel like they're sideswiped by being dumped. So that's my own experience, being a dude flavor. But I do feel like, and that was also in the 1980s. That was the beginning of like the divorce era, where a lot of divorces were happening to men who had like never even really understood what a divorce was. And a lot of them were like, what? I haven't changed at all. And it's like, yeah, but it's more complicated than that. Of course, in this movie, it's far more complicated than that. So
it's quite
yes,
complicated.
Yes. We should mention it takes place in one of the, you know, most delightful and film friendly places you could think of, West Berlin. And I love the setting of West Berlin.
Have you been?
No, well, I mean, I how old do you think I am? I mean, West Berlin hasn't existed since 1992, I think, or 3.
Oh, is that true? Oh, I didn't know that.
The
So I wasn't
Soviet
commenting
Union,
on your age.
The Soviet Union did fall, believe it or not.
Oh, this is political stuff. Well, I don't know anything about that.
More world history. Do you know why Germany was split in half?
No.
Oh, wow.
I'm a bimbo babe. I think I'm paying attention to that.
You're smarter than you even realize. But I'll give you. I am also a history nerd. I like history. So basically, after the Nazis were beat, do you know who the Nazis are? I'm kidding. No, but
I was like, I will leave this podcast.
So after the Nazis were defeated in World War II, basically the two fronts fighting them were the Soviets and the rest of Europe and America, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in kind of splitting up the plunder of Germany, because both sides had spent an immense amount of money defeating Germany, they both wanted to rebuild Germany to kind of, you know, reap some benefits. And they ended up splitting it in half. So West Germany, it's easy to remember. West is best because West was the Democratic side. That's how I always remember it. West is best. It's the Democratic side. And then East Germany and East Berlin were the communist side.
Okay.
So the movie takes place on the non-communist side because they wouldn't be allowed to make a movie on the communist side in real life anyway. And there's something so hellish. Berlin is actually like smack dab in the middle of Germany, kind of. Have you been to Berlin, by the way? Because you mentioned that. I want to make sure. Have you been there?
No. Okay. I do want to go there, though, someday.
I wouldn't mind going now that it's nice and and it's not a holiday in other people's misery. But so I think that West Germany is a phenomenal setup for the show because it's just an oppressive environment. You know, it feels very... This is, you know, some bad stuff's going on in the background. You know, you look out they constantly made reference to the fact that you could look out the window of the apartment they're constantly fighting in and see the Berlin Wall, which was a wall with armed guards on it. And they would shoot anyone who tried to escape East Berlin. That was what they were there for. So it's a very hard time period. And in some ways, after watching this again, I think that this movie was kind of about the fact that Poland, our director's home country, Poland was a communist nation. And he had a very successful career being a director in Poland. And then they started turning on him and they started telling him what he could and couldn't do and started censoring him and started trying to control him, which I know, shocker, a communist country wants to control somebody, but it is what happens. And in some ways, I think he chose West Germany, or West Berlin rather, because he wanted like a very clear depiction of the fact that there's this battle going on between a sense of democracy and a sense of communism. And in some ways, I feel like this movie is Andrzej's way of kind of exercising his feeling of his home nation turning on him. That was kind of a thought I had, was that it was like one day you wake up and you're like, why does Poland hate me now? I've been like, I love my home. And Poland's just like, ah, and you're like, what the hell is going on? So, but anyway, I'm getting a little deep in the weeds, but that was just something I thought of as I was watching it, is I was like, this, like the symbolism of like losing the mother as well, because countries in Europe especially are often referred to as mother, you know, the motherland.
Mm-hmm.
So, but those were just a few thoughts. So, but to get out of the weeds a little bit, the movie stars Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani. I believe I'm saying that right.
Yes.
Isabelle Adjani is, what's the word? She's like breathtaking in an uncomfortable way, if that makes sense. Like she's almost bewitching looking. She's a beautiful woman, but the way they photograph her, she looks like there's a lot going on that might not be so nice. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say she's mysterious looking.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And so it opens with them having a fight to end all fights. Right? That was, yeah, it starts out with Sam Neill and her having a kitchen fight. Most of their fights took place in the kitchen.
Yeah, very interesting.
And which it was also like the most cramped space in those little like Eastern block apartments, which were always kind of tiny and weird. And did you notice, I couldn't help but notice that the movie is blue. Very, very blue.
Yeah, she also wears blue.
She wears blue. The carpet in their apartment is blue, and the color tone of the movie is blue.
It is.
There were only a couple of moments where there was like a warmth to the picture, and that was literally from the sun. Like there was a part where Sam Neill's talking to the one private investigator guy, and literally they turn and it's just a sunlight beam on on his face. So it actually gave him like color to look like he might be alive. Because the movie is it's so clean, like, and I don't know, like I noticed when I was watching it, I was like, I have a hard time believing human beings live in the houses, because they were overall, especially their house, their apartment, because it was so clean. It was like, why can't it just a little dirtiness just to make us feel like somebody's living here, you know?
Yeah.
So what's one of the reasons you love this movie? I want to understand. I know that you like difficult movies. I mean, that's why we have this program together. No, I mean, that's a good thing though. Some movies are difficult and some people like to be challenged when they're watching a movie. I know I do. So what attracted you to the film?
I think, well, obviously I'm a Sam Neill fan.
Oh yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, In the Mouth of Madness, Jurassic Park, which are very far apart, but both phenomenal in their own way.
He's an icon for sure. And Isabelle Adjani captivated me from the start of the film, and I also think it's one of the best performances I've ever seen. So that definitely made me fall in love with the movie. But also I think I just love seeing like unhinged women and chaos ensue.
I mean, the Lifetime channel built a entire, monolith on the Crazy Woman movie. You have the reasonable woman and you have the crazy woman, and then they meet at the grocery store and you have a movie. No, and from what I understand, Isabelle Adjani was a model. Like she was dabbling in acting, but she was a model. That was like her main gig.
Yes.
And I believe it because her face is so expressive.
It is.
I wouldn't be surprised if modeling helped with that. Like she was kind of almost, I don't mean to be mean, like saying blue steel, because that's a kind of goofy thing, but like she had that ability to like look at the camera or look near the camera and you would really go like, whoa, like stuff's going on.
Yeah. Her eyes are very expressive.
Incredibly expressive. And that's the other reason I think she's like hauntingly beautiful, is she's a model. I mean, she has made a life of being beautiful.
Right.
But then you give her the extra bits, the unhingedness. So
love it.
So she wants to divorce Sam Neill, and Sam Neill is like, why? Because he was just away. This movie's so insane that I forget he's a spy. Like it's easy to like that's how crazy the movie is. It's like you ever see Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead?
No.
Really? You'd love it. It's just a fun, I mean, a lot of these are before your time, and they're honestly a little before mine too.
Is it from the 80s?
It's from the 90s. It stars Christina Applegate. Oh, it's a phenomenal movie. Basically these kids have a babysitter, she dies, and then they end up trying to fend for themselves because their mom is in Australia. But one of my favorite things about that movie, without even spoiling anything, is just that so much happens in that movie with those kids that when their mom finally gets home and you're like, oh no, they're busted and everything, then the mom goes, where's the babysitter? And you go, oh my God, the babysitter died. Like you forget because the movie gives you so much to process. And that's how I feel about Possession and about Sam Neill's character being literally a Cold War era spy. I forgot because I was so enthralled with everything else. It's like, listen, there's a lot of extreme and amazing things going on right now. It's just going to have to get in line. All right. I'm like, I just can't do it right now. But so he was away somewhere fighting somebody for some kind of spy organization. And he has West Berlin as home. So he goes home to his wife. She wants a divorce. So he immediately freaks out, gets very upset. I mean, he actually starts by asking a few questions, but the moment he's not getting the answers he wants, he just gets super mad. At least that was my interpretation.
Yes.
Yeah. And the thing with Sam Neill's character is I feel like he occasionally has an appropriate amount of anger and then often does not. Like, he definitely has anger. His character has anger problems. And I mean, I get it though. It's like, you're uprooting our family and da-da-da. And he pulls a really crummy thing, which is he decides he's not going to see his son anymore if his wife's going to leave him, which is a really crappy thing to do. And unfortunately, he's not the only one that uses Bob. Because who wouldn't have a 5-year-old named Bob?
I really take issue with that. This movie is insane.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much insanity. But the craziest thing is naming a baby Bob. I'm sorry.
I
like,
mean, it makes me think of Fulci, because in House by the Cemetery, the little boy's named Bob as well.
I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
So I guess in the 80s, there was a movement. Call your little kids Bob.
It's a terrible name.
Well, you know, because then you'll live your whole life with uncles going, hey, what's your middle name? Up and down in the river? Knee slap. So,
no offense to the Bobs of the world.
I mean, I know my buddy Rob is listening to this right now. I don't know if he went by Bob when he was a kid or not. Now I have to know. But no, so yeah, Bob is around, little kid. And that's the other thing, is he's kind of around when the parents care to have him around. And that's where it gets really hinky, because the threat of like, I won't be his father anymore is very manipulative. And I get that Sam Neill's character is desperate. He's desperate to keep his family. So I feel like I get why he's being that way. I don't think it's good though.
No.
But then as the movie progresses, she also uses Bob against him quite a bit as well.
She does, yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing that really like made me go like, wow, that's why this movie's so good. Because there's like, anybody you want to root for, you have to have caveats. You have to be like, you know, I think I get it though. He wants to keep his family, but he also shouldn't do that. Or like, I get it. She wants her freedom, but maybe also like, whoa, what are you doing?
None of these people are good.
None of these people are good. There's no doubt about that. So, of course, Sam Neill's character immediately assumes that there's another man.
Right.
And it turns out there is, except that there's been another man for like a year, and that's not why she's leaving him.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, talk about some of the most emasculating, like quick scenes I've ever seen, where she just like blurts out all at once, like, "Oh, the sex with you is just not interesting at all." But don't worry, but I have great sex with him. You're just like, woof, okay, woof, okay.
An octopus, I get. It's an octopus, isn't it?
No. So you're getting ahead.
Oh,
her lover
I'm
was
so
Heinrich.
sorry.
Her lover was Heinrich.
I know, but I assumed that she wasn't talking about Heinrich.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, though. I hadn't thought about that.
I don't know.
Oh, you might be right.
Especially because later, well, we'll get to it, but like later, I mean, like, just the way, like, how sexual she was with the thing.
No, that is a really good point. Because my thought, and now I could totally be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually am like, huh. You know, I mean, she had been having an affair with Heinrich. I definitely didn't think she was leaving Sam Neill's character for Heinrich. I knew she was leaving him for whatever the creature is that she's actually in love with. So, you know, whether or not she was talking about him, because I mean, one of the things she said when she said, like, I've been seeing him for over a year, she was talking about Heinrich. But her attitude was that, like, he was just, oh, whatever, that's just an affair. Like, that's just what you do. You, like, meet a guy at yoga class and start sleeping with him when your spy husband's gone. Like, you know, like you do. That's kind of the vibe I got. But the reason she left him was she found something far more, for her, captivating and interesting than good sex. She found maybe unspeakable evil? I mean, I'm leaning toward unspeakable evil. I like how it's like, let's talk about a movie that leaves nothing but questions.
It does, yeah.
No, it really does. But that's one of the things I love about it. So, in your opinion, how did you feel about the fighting scenes? I found those to be very hard to like breathe during when they were having like their full blown domestic disputes.
Yeah, those were very intense. Yeah. I think one of my favorite ones is at the beginning when they're in the restaurant.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, like a total Chad, he won't sit with her. He sits at the table next to her while he talks to her. So he's not even looking at her.
And be an adult.
Although maybe that's from his spy training, because that was the first thing I thought was like, don't spies do that? They like sit next to each other but facing away to talk to each other.
I don't know.
But no, he was being childish without a doubt.
Yeah.
Even before he started freaking out and a bunch of chefs had to jump on him. And
That's the part. That
so
part
good.
was crazy. I love the guy at the end of that. I don't know if you picked up on it, but the last guy to jump in, he just jumps.
Yeah, he just like,
right on
top of the
jumping
pile.
in a pool or something. Like, are you here, sir? Like,
that was like a perfect classic dog pile. Like, I was waiting for them all to start like punching and then Sam Neill to crawl out of the pile and just sneak away like in the cartoons. But no, that was an outstanding scene.
It was.
Because it's weird, like in a way, all the performances are huge for the most part.
Yeah.
But I feel like they work because it's like an insane world where people are like, in matters of the heart, we don't always make sense. I mean, maybe you have, and I'm the imperfect one in this conversation, but I have made dumb decisions when my heart gets involved. I've made great decisions with my heart too, but like, sometimes I'm like, wow, that was a choice. Okay, man, best of luck to myself. And I feel like in some ways that's what I got from why everybody's just so crazy is that they're both driven mad. Sam Neill's driven mad by wanting to keep his wife. His wife is driven mad by unspeakable evil. And that's really what makes this movie. Well, yeah. And that's the thing though, is like when they reveal Heinrich and when they reveal what he's about, like with her and her relationship with him, what they're about, it becomes obvious that like, that's a very simple example of like bored wife cheating. And what's actually going on is way more insane than that. That she's living with this being. Unspeakable evil is the best way to put it, because I don't know how to describe this tentacly monster that eats people and also will have sex with you.
This demon.
It's quite a creature that is basically telling her to do things for it. Basically, she lives to serve it to some extent.
Yes.
And as the movie progresses, it seems like to me that she's trying to protect her husband and child from it. Maybe at first, until he just keeps pushing and keeps pushing. And then eventually she's like, come on in,
Yes.
and I think that's also a really interesting element too, because, with, like I said, this is the era in 81. That was the era of divorces. Divorces were becoming very mainstream. And, in some ways, I wonder if it's like she, how some people maybe, I mean, I've never done this because, that would be stupid, but will go away from people because they feel like that somebody they love deserves to not have them in their life. Like, I'm a bad person, so I'm going to remove myself from the situation. Mm-hmm. It kind of made me think of that a little bit. And I was being facetious. I've absolutely felt that way. And it's a very hellish way to live, thinking that you're awful and everyone around you would be better off if you spared them your company. But sometimes I felt like that was kind of the vibe at first. Obviously at first, and this movie is 2 hours long. A lot happens in the first hour and a lot happens in the second hour.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't let up.
No, you know what it reminded me of? A little bit? Uncut Gems.
Oh my God. Yeah, the anxiety of it.
Yeah, the first 20 minutes of Uncut Gems. Oh my God. But that first 20 minutes or so, every character's yelling and everyone's talking over each other. Like every word overlaps.
Yeah.
It is so anxiety inducing.
Yeah, I can't deal with that. That's like so not my vibe. If that's happening in front of me, I'm disassociating. It's not.
The worst part is I went to see Uncut Gems 3 times in the theater, and I was like, it's just so amazing how it makes me so anxious. And I was like, wait, don't you pay a doctor to make that not happen? I'm a multifaceted being. Okay. That's all there is to it. But, so when you think about, I guess, I'm trying to kind of poke around at some of the takes. I guess one thing I'd like to ask you is, what do you think of Heinrich, the new agey man, this other man in her life, as opposed to the other entity in her life.
What a strange character. Like, I when they first show him and like Sam Neill goes over there and they have words. Heinrich is very touchy and weird.
Oh,
But
he's like massively sexual, talking to a guy he doesn't know. Yeah.
he is. And I was like, what's going on? Like, is he supposed to be the eccentric, like European, very like free kind of guy? But then his behavior just gets even weirder.
Oh yeah.
But but I will say that there was a really funny moment that I just have to address. So when Sam first goes over there, he's like, "Is Anna there?" And Heinrich is like, "No, she's not here." And he's like, "Do I have to kick the door down?" And Heinrich's like, "No, it's open."
Yeah, he's like, "Come on in, say hi to my mom.
Come in.
Yeah.
Let's have coffee."
Yeah. And I love that, because when you want to hate someone and then they're not that bad, it hurts more. Like, you know, like if you're like, "Oh, my partner's been cheating on me," and then you meet the person and you're like, they're pretty cool. That just sucks. Like you want them to have taken a step down, you know?
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that's,
yeah.
and I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's true to a lot of people. I don't think anybody wants to find out they were being cheated on with somebody way better than them. You know, that hurts, especially because you're already feeling
I don't think anyone wants to be cheated on in general.
Well, I mean, maybe. No, you're right. That's a fair point. I just feel like if I'm going to be cheated on, it's at least like make him ugly or something. So I could be like, well, I guess she peaked with me. Have fun with Quasimodo over there. You know, like. But I actually, in my notes about Heinrich, I put Heinrich as a special type of, and then literally asshole or hero. I couldn't decide if I love him or hate him because he's so weird.
Same.
Because he's like, when Sam Neill gets like in his face, he just starts like karate chopping him and beating him up.
Yeah.
And then he does that thing that's like the most emasculating thing ever, which is he beat up Sam Neill and then picks Sam Neill up, gets him back on his feet and goes, "All right, go home." Like the worst thing ever is not only does somebody kick your ass, but then they help you get back up and get back on your way. They're like, "All right, buddy, you go now." Like that's a emasculating moment to be like, I was going to kick your ass, but then you kicked my ass and then helped me stand back up and leave. Ouch. Okay, fine. All right. I guess I am no threat to you whatsoever. But there was also the scene where Sam Neill discovers the ballet footage, the footage of his wife teaching ballet.
Yes.
I found that a really interesting moment, because it seemed kind of like Sam Neill was seeing a side of his wife he'd never seen before in the video.
I got that vibe as well.
Yeah. So basically he discovers a film strip, he plays it, and it's his wife teaching a ballet class. And she's being kind of the way I've been told ballet teachers are, and being very cruel, very callous. You are making faces.
I've been in dance classes before.
Yeah?
Can confirm. Yes.
So the instructors were very brutal.
Yes. Actually, I had one that just like constantly embarrassed me. Very similar to that.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you mind giving, it doesn't have to be the example that was similar. It could be anything, but like, what is an example of something that the dance teachers do that's just like not okay?
I think, well, mine specifically would comment on like my weight and tell me that I was like not skinny enough, and I would like, it caused a whole thing during college for me.
Oh God, that was during college?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I went to an acting conservatory and
right.
we had dance as well.
It's a good thing to learn. Teaches you how to move your body. It's very good for acting.
It's true.
Yeah.
She would specifically only like pick me out and be like, "Okay, you show me the entire dance." Out of the lineup of cool. Like, I don't know how many students in our class. And she did that multiple times. Yeah, and there was at one point one of my classmates was like, "Yo, what's good? Like, why are you always like picking on Celise?"
Yeah.
And she was like, mind your business.
Oh,
Like,
man.
she was pretty gross.
Yeah, no, that sounds friggin' awful.
Yeah, so she very much had the same attitude as Isabelle Adjani in the
Well,
film.
and there's a weird thing. Did you see Whiplash?
Yes.
Phenomenal movie. But one of the reasons I love that movie, it's a movie about a drum instructor, a college instructor who teaches jazz drumming and stuff like that. And there's a drummer who wants to be great, and played by Miles Teller. And I love that movie because the abuse he puts Miles Teller through does make Miles Teller a better drummer, but that doesn't make it not abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important point to make. Because when people do the defense of like, well, yeah, I taught it to you this way, but that's just, how it's done is, I push you because I want you to be more. It's like, yeah, that might work, but that doesn't mean it was moral. That doesn't mean that what you did wasn't scarring for life. And
Right.
and sorry, homie, but hurt people hurt people. So I don't think you're screaming like that at your students just because you want them to be great, and then you go home and you're super nice to your cat or whatever. I think you're a prick. Somewhere inside you need to hurt things that are young and remind you of yourself. And that's not okay. I've seen it a lot, to be frank. So I was actually talking about this earlier yesterday with a friend. I worked in the professional wrestling business.
I'm finding out so much about you.
Okay, so the only education I ever achieved was I graduated from professional wrestling school. I have no other
That's
nothing.
insane.
So I wanted to be a professional wrestler, and I surrounded myself with the business. And at the time, being 5'8", no chance being a wrestler. Almost none. Like, most trainers would be like, you should go home. I accepted that, although 5 years later it became normal because they stopped being giant Herculean He-Men because of, steroid laws and stuff. But when I wanted to be a wrestler, I couldn't. So then I trained to become a manager. I don't know if you've ever watched pro wrestling, but like they're the guy who talks for the wrestler, and stands outside the ring and cheats and stuff. I was very good at it, by the way. I was a phenomenal bad guy wrestler.
Of course.
And it's so much fun. All you have to do is come out, get the microphone and say, I have never seen so many ugly, inbred, ignorant people in my life. And they just start booing and yelling and telling you to die and throwing popcorn at you. And, but so I ended up going to pro wrestling school when I was 18 years old, and they trained me like a wrestler, but it was to be a manager. And there's a lot of hazing in pro wrestling. A lot. And I remember I drew the line with some of the guys one time because they were telling me about a hazing they did to somebody before I was around. That I don't even want to say exactly what it was because like it's so gross. Mm-hmm. But they did something very disgusting to someone's food. And then they ate it. And they were like, haha, you ate that. And I looked him dead in the face and I said, if you ever do that to me, I will go buy a gun and shoot you. And he was like, dude, it's just I'm like, that is not a raz. That's poisoning. If you put something in my food I don't want in my food, I will kill you.
I mean, it's insane.
It doesn't, when you grow up with bikers, that's how you learn to make your points, I guess. But no, it was a way of saying like, here's my line, man. Don't cross it. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, it will not be laughed off. But there were other hazing things that weren't that big a deal. Like, like tripping somebody when they're in the ring or something, it was like a little embarrassing, but you could laugh it off. It's not like you got hurt or anything. But there was so much hazing. Very popular was to like, this never happened to me, but I also guarded my stuff. Crapping in people's bags was a very popular way to haze people in pro wrestling.
That's crazy.
And disgusting, like truly disgusting. So anyway, my point is that there was this attitude like, well, this is how you learn it. Therefore, it should be okay because this is how I learned it. And I was very fortunate. My instructors weren't that bad, but to be a pro wrestler, you have to learn to get punched in the face again and again and again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And they did that. Like I would learn, like they'd be like, when I swing my fist, turn your head so I don't break your nose. Yeah. And you would do it and they'd hit you and you'd be like, and they'd be like, good job. I didn't break your nose. Like, or they'd be like, you need to learn how to take a stomp. So fall down on the ground and everyone in here is going to kick you. It's like, am I joining the Crips or what's going on here? So digressions are kind of what we're all about here, but I don't want to talk about pro wrestling too much, but my point is, like, for me, that was my experience of like kind of a messed up way to learn things being seen as completely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't easy to stand up to it. And I'll tell you right now, if I was in your dance class, well, first of all, I would be a queen. I'm so good at moving. But second of all, I would have punched that lady right in the face, and she wouldn't have turned her head to keep her nose from breaking, because that is not okay. Man, that makes me mad.
It's not, yeah.
But I bet you in some twisted part of her brain, she thought she was helping you by being a total puta. I'm gonna go with puta. My fist started clenching. I was like, what do I want to say? But like, there's no reason to treat anybody like that. I hate that.
Yeah, it sucked. It was pretty rough.
Did you just stick it out through the class, or did you drop it?
No, I stuck it out. But it was very rough.
Sure.
Yeah, I was happy I didn't get her for the next semester, because sometimes you get the teacher again. So yeah, I stuck it out for a semester. And she really wasn't even like one of the best dance teachers, which was more like embarrassing for her. It was like, okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You know, those who can't do teach.
I was gonna say another thing that I thought was funny too, was that she just must be so mad because she actually went to that school and graduated, and then she just became a teacher there.
Yep.
So I'm just like, not my problem, lady.
Man, I am liking the salty Celise we're getting right now. This is nice. I like it.
She sucks.
No, for real. And yeah, no.
I hope she doesn't work there anymore. She made me and many other people feel like shit. So
I will say the only good thing she's probably ever done in her worthless life is teach you to be a little bit more steadfast in your own resolve. It's probably the best thing she'll ever do in her life. Everything else, shit. And she did it by being a bad person. So bad news, still a bad person.
For sure.
But I did want to bring that up. And actually, I just had a feeling you would have something to say about ballet, because I thought I remembered you saying you'd taken dance or something. But I thought that was really interesting. So in the scene, she's making a girl hold a pose that's very painful and making her hold it as high as she can. And I get it. She's trying to get the girl to build strength, but she's also yelling at her. The girl is crying. She's doing that in front of all of that girl's peers. That stuff is not okay. You know?
Yeah, it's like dehumanizing.
Oh God, yeah. Well, and ballet is dehumanizing. I mean,
it is actually.
Nothing against the art form, but that's the way everyone wears the same hairstyle. Everyone wears the same clothes. Everyone's roughly the same body shape. And I get why, sure, but it's a rough business, and you're not meant to stick out. You're meant to fit in. So, so anyway. Now I'm pretty mad about your instructor now, by the way.
Thank you for the support.
I'm pretty like, things slide off my back pretty easy. Like, somebody could call me a name, but then they call any friend of mine a name, and I'm like, how do you want to die? Let me know. Like, which way do you want to die, boy? I'm gonna kill you, so I gotta know how.
Sucked. Oh my God.
Well, okay. Next episode, road trip to her house. We're gonna have microphones. We're just gonna be like, why are you like this? Who hurt you? Talk to us. What's your favorite horror movie? We have to ask that in order for this to make sense. So
yeah.
So the ballet thing shows him that there's this element of her that is not the soft, warm, loving woman that he knew. That was a lot more callous and cold. And meanwhile, though, he's just still trying to keep it all together, you know, like, and he still wants her, even though he's starting to learn, like, you know, she's not perfect, man. And maybe you should let her go if she wants to go. Every time she pulls, he pulls harder. He wants more.
I think like a part of that too is that, like, does he really want her, or is he just incapable of being alone?
Oh, that's definitely a part of it. That is definitely a part of it. No, absolutely. Well, then, and we think, you and I think in a more modern sense than somebody in that era would too. In that era, it wasn't considered a good thing to be all by yourself, or to be alone, or to live alone. it was, family was a little bit less malleable than it is now, without a doubt. Like I said, divorce was just really coming in vogue in the 70s and 80s. So before that, people stuck it out. And I think, there's something to be said for sticking it out. And there's also something to be said for saying when you've had enough, when you're done, because you got to be an adult. You got to make your own choices. And so on top of all this, the other women in the film are odd. Like her friend.
Oh my God, I know. So weird.
She has like a hate boner for she has like a total hate boner for Sam Neill's character because she's like so mean to him and then she just wants him.
That character is very strange. It makes zero sense to me, and her line delivery is atrocious.
Well, I mean, that's fair. And while this is a foreign movie, by the way, it was made for for international audiences. So it was shot in English. So, we were actually seeing everyone's performances. She was a very odd element. I got the vibe that she kind of represented those, like, I think in New York, they call them bag ladies. The old ladies that are just like, walking with bags and they don't have anything to do. I think she's kind of a bag lady. She's kind of this woman who's like, friends with his wife and is like, oh yeah, he's terrible. Like if he's treating you bad, leave him. And then the moment it's like, she left me, she's like, I could use a good man. And you're like, okay. So, I mean, you got your friendship with her, but then you've also got like, let's be real. I'm living alone. I don't know if I love it. So she kind of like in a very unsubtle way starts like trying to move in. And his response is like, basically to just put his palm on her forehead and be like, get away from me now. Stop with that.
So weird.
Super weird. But she offers to help him with Bob.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to figure out what to do. And the other thing I think that's extra frustrating for him is he's between jobs. So it's not like he could be like, well, when I get back from this next job, we'll talk about it. No, it's like you're home for the next few months at least. And that was what he kept saying. He'd be like, I have the time. If we need to work through this, I have the time. And she's like, I don't want to. He's like, but I have the time. Like, so I think that one element is probably the idea that when somebody leaves you, you want them more. I think that that's a big part. I think you're right about he doesn't want to be alone. Absolutely. But I think that at some point it stops being about the woman you love and starts being about you want to accomplish the thing you're trying to accomplish, which is, you want to win, for lack of a better term. And I think that that is what really comes to be in the second hour of the movie, is that he's just obsessed with getting her back, even though everything is saying stop. Everything is saying like your time is up with her and it's probably weirder than you think or worse than you think what's going on. He's like, no. I'm going to save her. I want my family to be together. Even if all we do is fight every day, like we're going to be together though. Not the most healthy attitude, maybe that I've ever heard.
He's wild. I wouldn't want to be with him after he was slapping her around.
Oh no, that was an amazing scene. I'm so glad you brought that up.
That scene was really great. That scene is when the iconic shot of her like doing that very sinister smile comes
with the blood.
Through.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and so that
scene had me like I was in like a chokehold with that scene.
Yeah.
I was like every 2 minutes I just kept going,
yeah.
No.
No, it's a gasp factory. That scene is I'm going to use that from now on, a gasp factory. Well, and I'll tell you. So for people who haven't seen this movie, I really recommend you do. But prior to when he finally just slaps her in the face, he never put his hands on her in a overtly abusive way. He grabbed her a few times, not great, but he never just whacked her in the head or something.
Yeah.
And when he does, there's this reaction between both of them that line has been crossed. But the thing that disturbed me the most was I got a sense that she wanted him to cross that line. And that was what made that extra powerful to me, was like he hits her, and after he hits her, he has this reaction like, oh God, like I hit her. And then she just looks at him like, do it again. And he ends up just whooping on her. And
that whole thing was very strange.
Oh, there's so much going on all at once. I just know as a male flavored person that it's one of the worst relationships I was ever in. I sincerely believe that the girl I was seeing wanted me to hit her. She would fight with me and get in my face and shove me. And I think that she really wanted me to hit her. I'm not saying for the same reason as in this movie, but there's like an element of, I don't know, control or something to getting a man to be like the thing you really don't want to be. Because I'll tell you right now, say what you want about men, but men generally, they do not like men who hit women. Men do not like men who hit women. And if I had ever hit my ex, which I never did, but if I had ever done it, I feel like I would have hated myself a lot. It would have been a horrible loss of my own integrity and my own autonomy, if that makes sense. I know this is really heavy, but it made me think of it. It really did. It's okay. It's okay. Not only do you have to, you're allowed to think about it, you're also allowed to just disagree or just have no opinion about it. But I got the sense that when he hit her, that there was some kind of a manipulation and a game involved. That's all. Because I definitely got the sense when he hit her that was the only time. That was the first time, rather, that he'd hit her. So that's a powerful moment for everybody. That's a powerful moment for her, and it's a powerful moment for him, becoming a person who hits his wife. It's not a good look. It's not a good thing to transform into. And it's clear that that's kind of the thing. Like, I have a rule in relationships. If I ever yell at the top of my lungs, I'm out. Like, if it ever gets so bad for me that I feel the need to yell at the top of my lungs, I leave. Because for me, why would I ever need to yell at the top of my lungs to anybody who I want to be with or who I love? I mean, we're not talking about like, look out, we're talking about, arguments and stuff. And I'm very adverse to fights and stuff like that. I don't like Rachel and I, my girlfriend, we've never fought. We don't fight. We have minor disagreements at best. We're very annoying and happy and it's stupid, but yeah, so I don't know. That was one of the things that made that scene so powerful to me, though, is that it was like both people were having a massive moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if she was kind of like one of the reasons she seemed to be happy about him hitting her was that it like proved to her he was not a good husband, or maybe it would prove to him he wasn't a good husband.
I don't think she wanted him to hit her.
Well, I mean, I think she wanted
a very weird thing. I feel like
I don't think she wanted the first hit. I think that she wanted him to keep hitting her because she did the whole stance like, you can't hurt me. So he just kept hitting her and she wasn't reacting to it. And I'm not saying that that's her fault. I'm saying like this in this weird, nasty dichotomy of this truly toxic situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like it, is because it's so complex. And I could totally be wrong. It was just one of the ways that I read it, was that once he hit her, she was just kind of like, see, this is who you are. And now go on, be who you really are. Be the abusive husband, be the man who hits a woman. And that's heavy and that's intense. And it's good shit. I mean, it's good writing. It's scary. And it gets through, it definitely like seeped into my bones, this movie. Because that's kind of my point, is that when you're in a really toxic situation, it just brings out the worst in everybody involved. Everybody becomes their worst self. I don't know have you ever been in a toxic relationship?
I have been in plenty.
Plenty. Is that like a hand's worth or more?
I will say a hand's worth. Yes.
Okay. No, that's fair. By the time I was your age, I had a hand's worth as well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first relationship was extremely abusive, unfortunately. And I mean, that was a long time ago. I was like 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recommend your first experience with love being that way. It definitely can mess you up.
That's true.
Yeah. But there was always this weird dichotomy, because what women do to men is very different than what men do to women for the most part. Like I always felt like I was like, when I was made to feel like I was being unreasonable, it was always like that I was being threatening or scary. And I was just a little nerd who was just afraid of his tiny girlfriend, like it's very weird. The dichotomies, the amount of spots you can exploit in someone's mind to kind of hurt them when you know them well. There's so much intimacy, and intimacy. That's why some people have a fear of intimacy, because it gives people fuel to attack you or hurt you. I once, the last toxic relationship I was ever in, I was dating this girl, and I had told her in confidence, because I was having a really hard time, that my greatest fear in life was that my work made it impossible for me to have a real relationship. Because I work so much, I work so hard. I told her that. And the moment I made her mad, she said that that's what was happening. She was like, I think that you just work too much and you can't love me. And instead of feeling bad, I was just livid. Because I was like, you just said back to me the worst thing you could say to me because I told you that. Like, I handed you that gun and you shot me with it. Like, intimacy's hard. Sorry. Am I being a little heavy?
I think so.
Fair enough. No, I mean, but that's one of the things that grabbed me about this movie, though. So, let's see. To get back over to the film. So another thing I had noticed was, I do think that the wall, the Berlin Wall, was very much an element of, there are bigger problems than just the two of them, but they don't care. Like, it's very clear that there's like social unrest in West Berlin in the movie. The people are scarce, and when they're around, they're kind of insane. And it seems like everything is pointing towards something bad is about to happen. So let's see. Oh, there was one point I wanted to mention to you and see what you thought about it. When he causes the private investigator to go to her to find her, and then he ends up getting murdered by the creature.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that after her husband sees her again, she really hates him. Like her hate is way up. And it made me wonder if maybe she resents him even more because he raised her body count. Like, he caused her to basically kill another person. And that maybe that was that was one of the things that was making her get more upset. Because I just noticed she was like up to 11 on how much she hated him after that happened. Yeah. And I was wondering if maybe the madness of the whole situation hadn't fully had her yet. So she was livid that she had to witness another person die because she wasn't, all in on whatever the hell their deal is. Because you watch the whole movie, you don't know what their deal is exactly.
Right.
It does seem like they're forming a symbiotic relationship of some kind. Mm-hmm. So, but that's all we really get. So that was one thought I had. And then, of course, one of the greatest moments of the film, the subway scene.
Oh, yeah.
Where she's just running down the subway, going crazy. Like, just mad as a hatter. And
they should show that in acting schools.
That's
a master class in acting.
Well, and it's a phenomenal example of, if I had to describe, Isabelle Adjani's, if I had to describe her acting power, it would be vulnerability. Because I think vulnerability is the best tool you can have in your toolkit as an actor, because vulnerability makes people believe you.
Absolutely. I think you have to be vulnerable to be an actress or an
absolutely. Actor. Yeah. No, I think it's very true. I think to do any art form that's performative, you have to have a degree of it. Mm-hmm. And she was so vulnerable. And from what I heard, she was actually very afraid that the director was making her look ugly, and that the director was like making her act poorly. She was very afraid that the movie was turning out horribly while they were making it. Which makes sense, though, because he was having her do crazy things. And I mean crazy from an acting standpoint. Like, you just had to be bigger. She'd be like, how big do you want this? Do you want me to flail my arms and scream? He's like, perfect, do that. And I could see why you would think that's cheesy, but her vulnerability is so strong that anything she does that's weird or out of this, out of the realm of believability, becomes believable. Because as she's like literally just going nuts in a subway, her eyes are true. Mm-hmm. I don't know how else to put it, because it's very like instinctual to me, but like, I didn't laugh at that scene because of her eyes, because she looked like something was really happening to her, and it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think she really, really believed what the character was going through.
Yeah. Or the director was just torturous. Either or, uh, but so that was something worth mentioning, was that subway scene was incredible. And toward the end, when her husband starts realizing like, oh, like there's a body count to this, like trying to figure out what's going on with my wife, he's like unfazed by it because he's so insane for the chase. Like he's so desperate to chase her down and get her. And I have to say that the more I talk about this movie with you, the more I am realizing this is like a masterpiece of codependent toxicity. Like this is a phenomenal story. It doesn't matter that she is literally like possessed by some kind of evil. Doesn't matter. He becomes a worse person chasing her, and he becomes in the wrong too. It's very, you don't expect a movie like this to be so subtle in some ways, because it's such an unsubtle film, but it really delivers a lot. I'm so glad I watched it again. I'm glad you recommended we watch it, because I got so much more from it that second time, and I already liked it. But
That's
now
good.
I kind of love it.
Good.
So here's the big question. What do you think of the ending?
I think the ending, so I rewatched it earlier this morning.
Right.
I struggle with the ending because I don't actually, and people will probably make fun of me because they're like, how is this one of your favorite movies if you don't understand the ending?
Oh,
And
that makes perfect sense to me.
I think that the ending can be interpreted probably in multiple ways. I personally have no idea like what the fuck is happening. All I know is that both of these people wanted something different. Like he was so desperate to have her be like this like ideal housewife who just is like there and takes care of him and whatever. And she wanted her own thing. Like she literally rebuilt him through this demon thing.
Yeah.
So it's like both of them just wanted completely different things, and it's but both of them are super toxic.
Oh yeah. Well, and I almost forgot to mention the teacher.
Yeah.
Bob's teacher is a beautiful young woman who is also played by Isabelle Adjani
With green contacts.
with very green contact lenses. And what did you read about her being a doppelganger for his wife?
So I was thinking about that. Do you know earlier when she has the monologue about faith and chance?
Yeah, yeah.
I assumed that doppelganger was Faith.
Ooh. I love that.
She's in all white. I don't know, and she seems very pure and like.
Yeah, I mean, she works with children.
Right.
She's generous to children. There's always that saying about like, how kind someone is by how they treat children and animals. So it's like very kind person. Wow, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. That's a really good point. My only thought was that he was just haunted by her because he was so obsessed. So he was just seeing her as his wife because she was doing like a wifely job by taking care of children and stuff.
That could be true too.
But I like yours as well. The best part is we're both right. And if everyone's right, that also means everyone's wrong. So yay us. We did it. We're both as wrong as each other. I love it. That's freaking awesome. I hadn't thought about that. The next time I watch it, I'm probably going to be thinking about that when she gives the speech about chance and faith and everything. I'm probably going to like watch a little closer.
Yeah, you should. It's such a great monologue as well.
Phenomenal monologue. And the acting is really great. And I can't overstate. It's the only movie I've ever seen where I would describe the acting as both subtle and overstated at the same time.
I agree, actually.
And that's the thing though. So if you watched 10 minutes of Possession, you might not realize how good it is. But if you watch all 2 hours, and I guarantee if you watch past 20 minutes, you will watch all 2 hours.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you watch the whole movie, the way people are acting and stuff just makes sense. The style makes sense. The actual story may not, but that's okay because we're here to pick it apart and see what we think. And honestly, I think one of the reasons I like you, Celise, is that one of your favorite movies is a movie you don't think you fully understand. Because it's okay to like a movie and not fully understand it.
I think so.
I think it's not only okay, I think it's a great way to go, because that shows that you don't have an insecurity about it. You know, if that makes sense. Like, you're just like, no, I love this movie. What does the ending mean? I don't really know, but I like to think about it.
Every time I watch it, I think about it, and I'm like, I still can't figure it out, but one day I'm gonna figure it out. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of rewatching it for me. I'll figure it out.
I'm gonna rewatch it. I'm probably gonna make my girlfriend watch it because she loves heady movies. Like, if I watch a movie,
the headiest movie of all time.
It's up there without a doubt. Like, I love showing her heady movies because she loves to interpret. She's even more analytical about it than I am in a lot of ways.
That's nice.
We'll finish watching a movie like we both saw Beau is Afraid together. So then we got in the car and we were just dead quiet. And then I looked over and I was like, did you hate that? She's like, I hated it. And I was like, okay, I didn't like it either. Because
oh my God. I hate that movie as well.
But it was funny because the reason it felt so good to be able to be like, did you hate it? Okay, I did too. Because it was like, we were both sitting there like, maybe because I was actually sitting there hoping she was going to convince me that it was good. I was hoping she'd seen something I missed.
That's so funny. When I came out of the theater with my partner after seeing Beau is Afraid, I looked at them and I was like, Ari Aster is in his flop era.
Well, he got too much power.
Just like, what a mess.
The fact that they were like, let's let you make the most expensive movie of your career and of our studio's career, and it could just be whatever. I would have liked that movie if it had given a real resolution, because I thought it had interesting concepts.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of petered out and gave up. That's my opinion. But we're not talking about Beau is Afraid, and we never will, because neither of us like. One of us has to like the movie to get it in. That's the cost of admission. Yeah.
We'll not be watching that movie ever again.
No, yeah, probably. Maybe if I have the flu and I'm like on NyQuil, I'll give it a shot. You know, maybe I'll figure something out about it.
Like, you couldn't pay me enough to rewatch it.
That's a challenge. Let's get the GoFundMe up. No. So with all this stuff happening, other little things to mention, the school teacher ends up helping him at home. They don't end up sleeping together, but they almost do, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he kind of turns it down. Again, you know, maybe that's because he's bewitched by his wife, or maybe, you know, they also make reference, I think, to him being impotent. I think there were references, small references, pardon the pun, reference to him being impotent, or having moments where he's impotent. Oh. So there's also that great moment toward the beginning when she asks him if she cheated on him, or if he cheated on her while he was gone. And he says, not really, I think was the phrase.
Yeah.
He said some kind of a weird dismissive thing.
He did.
Which was weird and not cool.
I hate him, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he's an asshole.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, he is. I
mean, like, from the beginning on, I'm just like, calm down. Like, stop following her around. Give her space.
No,
she doesn't want to be near you.
That was his big problem, was he would not really give her space, except when he went to that hotel for 3 weeks or whatever it was.
It's crazy. It's like all that matters is like his needs.
Yes.
And, like, her needs are like secondary. Like, she doesn't want to be near you. Why are you following her?
Well, and from his perspective, his needs are the family's needs.
Right. So, which is like, he's kind of using that to his own advantage. It's like, shut the fuck up.
I love Salty Solis.
No, it's just crazy. Yeah. I don't know.
No, I love it.
I just feel like his character is like a man that just like cannot handle like a woman wanting to be in charge of her own life. Like, fuck off.
Well, for the record, the reason he has trouble the reason he's fighting it is because he doesn't understand.
He definitely doesn't.
And that's what he wants more than anything. He just wants to know why she's leaving him. And when she doesn't really have an answer, that begins, he just goes mad instead of just like, you know, I don't know, just getting some Ben and Jerry's like the rest of us.
Yeah, he is something.
No, he gets worse as the movie progresses. He becomes a worse person. There's no doubt.
He does. Like, this scene in the kitchen when she has the the like saw for the meat, and she cuts her neck, like, and they're screaming at each other. Like, I feel like she's just so desperate. Like, she's like telling him, like, leave me alone. Like, and he's just still pressing her.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, can you shut up?
Well, then he does something really interesting, though. After she goes to bandage herself up, he cuts himself with the same implement on his arm.
Yeah, it's so fucking weird.
You know why I think he did that?
Why?
I think he did that to feel closer to her.
That could make sense. Yeah, I could see that.
Because I don't deny that this guy loves her. I do deny that he has a healthy understanding of much of anything at this point. So that's why I like I like the complication. I like the idea of looking at a character that I believe is wrong and then finding the things I agree with, but then also being like, yeah, so I get why you'd be like this, but not like that. Like, I could get you being mad about it. I could get you, calling, your buddy and being like, what a bitch. But, chasing her even after she's like begging you to leave her alone, it's a lot. And then
it's a lot.
And then being okay with like hiding the corpses of people that you assume she just murdered. That's a lot.
He's a lot.
Yeah.
And she's a lot as well, but it's just like he's so controlling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Relax, like give it a day or two. Like every day he's like obsessed with trying to figure out where she is, what's she doing, like stalking her. Like come on.
Well, and I will say there is that one scene where he shows up at the house and Bob is like completely untaken care of. Like he was left all alone and he's filthy and and stuff. So there is that moment, which unfortunately just feeds his desire to force the family back together.
Mm-hmm.
Because now he's like, well, you can't even take care of Bob. And he is right. She shouldn't have done that. But I think that's like an unfortunate moment, because if that hadn't happened, maybe he could have lost some of his psychosis. But no, just by chance, she didn't take care of the kid that day. So now you really want to pull everything back together, or at the very least take Bob away from her. And maybe taking Bob away from her wasn't a bad idea. Knowing what we know now, that the person she was leaving her family for was not a person, but instead an object of unspeakable evil. And so to wrap this up, my thought is, I think that this movie has a lot to do with the writer-director's experience with divorce of his home nation. Because he was a very proud Pole. He was very proud to be Polish. He was very proud of his country. He'd made movies there proudly. Then all of a sudden they kind of turned on him and he felt like, why are you turning on me? So I feel like maybe that's a drawing point. And the idea that it's like, but I love you and you love me, why are you leaving? It's like, I don't want to be with you anymore. I don't understand. It's like, maybe you don't understand because you don't want to understand, or you shouldn't understand. Because I mean, I think, Poland, if we're using the Poland metaphor, Poland did have darker reasons behind censoring artists and stuff. It was because they were totalitarian and they were kind of sort of kowtowing to the Soviet Union. They weren't officially a member of the Soviet Union. But they were they were a communist nation themselves. So that's kind of like if I had to really think about like what I think inspired the story, it would be that kind of divorce would be very painful and you would feel abandoned and you'd feel like you should stick it out. But then he made it interesting by making both of the characters obscenely toxic. I mean, just so toxic that there should be a warning label on them. So as the film wraps up, Sam Neill is approached about being a spy some more. He doesn't want to be, but it turns out he probably can't get out of it. And now they're going to bust his wife for killing these people because nobody assumes that it's a tentacle creature. Man, the ending is so crazy. As I'm recounting it, I'm like, oh my God.
It's insane.
Yeah. So Heinrich's dead. Heinrich's mother commits suicide in front of Sam Neill.
That was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. His mother's like not an invalid, but she's a little old lady.
Yeah.
She's a little old lady. And she seems so content when she kills herself. She's like very happy to just take the pills and lay down in the bed. And that's it. Very disturbing. It's bothering me even now as I'm thinking about it. But so in one of the last gasps of Sam Neill trying to save his family, I guess, in his perspective, he double crosses the cops, sets them up, and then goes on the run as they're like shooting at him and chasing him down. Also, did you notice the pink socks? I noticed the pink socks this time.
I did. I called them out actually to Rocco.
Oh, that's great. So there's a reference when he's meeting with the people who are paying him for being a spy. One of the questions is like, is the person you're working for still wear pink socks? They just ask that. And then at the end, when all the cops or whoever they are coming up these stairs to go get him, one of them pulls his leg up and there's pink socks.
Yeah.
I love it because the thing that makes a movie like this great compared to a movie like, but like Beau is Afraid or whatever, is I really feel like everything matters in this movie. I don't feel like there's anything superfluous. I don't feel like there's anything that was put there just for the heck of it. I feel like everything is there to serve a purpose for the audience, and I friggin' love that. You know, even if the pink socks was just to remind you that his life is not normal, by reminding you, oh yeah, he also has spy stuff. This guy could be an enemy of his or a friend. We don't know. And when you're a spy, do you even have either, really? You don't have friends or enemies. So they're just people. But so he ends up going up the staircase. He's been shot. And then he runs into his wife, who then introduces him to his doppelganger. A Sam Neill with a completely different body stance. Like he stands different. His eyes are black or extremely dark brown. It was hard to, they were definitely not his baby blues. Sam Neill has beautiful blue eyes. And
what a beautiful man.
He's a very beautiful man. But so he has these dark eyes, and he has it's funny saying this because like Sam Neill was a part of the Omen movies. He's like Damien from the Omen. Like he's just kind of, hello.
Yeah.
And you're like, hi. And he's like, I might end the world, but I don't know yet. And you're like,
yeah.
Good story, bro. Good story.
I love that performance, even though it's very short.
Oh, it's brilliant. No, they're so good in this.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's a testament to how great performances, even with a story that may to a lot of people not make any sense at all, works brilliantly. I really love this movie. It's probably gonna end up in my top 10.
Wow, that's great.
No, it's a big win for me. That's why I'm like overexcited and talking so fast, because I'm like, but then that happened. Do you remember how great that was? But no. So now the cops come and they're shooting at them. They end up killing Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani, and apparently bullets don't affect the doppelganger at all. And I would have, if not for the scene when the doppelganger escaped, I would have thought the doppelganger was imaginary. But then he interacts with somebody at the top floor and says, like, will you help me escape? So now it's like, okay, so a third party has confirmed he exists to me. So he's real. And I have definitely been struggling to think of what I think of the doppelganger ending. Like, was that doppelganger meant to replace Sam Neill? Like, I don't know.
I think so. Maybe. I don't know. It's really weird. It's very confusing also, because then it's like she gets shot and then she just shoots herself. Well, both of them really. Yeah. And then they die. So it was weird because it was like, oh, I thought she was trying to build like the perfect partner or whatever.
Yeah.
With his like face and body and whatever. But then she just dies.
Yeah, and she not only dies, she like crawls on top of him and like gets into like a loving embrace to die with him. And I mean, I get maybe some of that is that she understood like what all he went through to try to help her, even though it didn't help anyone. Maybe. She definitely had some feelings for him remaining. And which I find, again, I love complicatedness. I love the idea like that it's not cut and dry. It's like she hates him, except that when she's dying, she decides to hold him. People are complicated. What do you want? But when I think about the doppelganger, this one really gets me because I don't know exactly what I think about it, let alone what they were trying to accomplish with it. Yeah. But in a way, it's like, if you love something, set it free. Came into my head when I thought about the doppelganger. She just lets the doppelganger go and knows she's got to die with her husband because they're both mortal and going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the thing left her. Maybe the thing was like, well, now that I'm corporeal and can and have two legs, I'm gonna go do stuff. So
Bye.
adios. Yeah, I gotta go. I have a yoga instructor I'm seeing now, you know? and but I don't know. Those are just two of my thoughts on what
Yeah.
it might mean.
I don't know what it means.
That's a perfectly fair answer. And I can't even say that I'm confident in my ideas. Those are just theories I think I thought of. And of course, while all of this is happening, it appears World War III is breaking out outside because there are
Yeah, some
bomber
crazy.
sirens playing. Yeah, it appears that at the very least, they're establishing that like Eastern Europe or Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany and Western Germany might be going at war with each other, which was something people were worried about, was that there'd be a civil war. So it seems like maybe some people, I know I've read that some people think that was saying the entire world ended. Like that was like the apocalypse, basically, that World War III was starting and everybody was going to die. Because you got to remember, this is dead ass in the middle of the Cold War. So it's like, you fight the Soviet Union, you fight a bunch of nuclear bombs, you fight America, you fight a bunch of nuclear bombs. It's not a great situation. So, but yeah, so the movie ends with possibly the entire world ending. And that's possession.
That is possession.
I don't know that I've ever loved a batshit movie more that is this good. Like, there are batshit movies I love, you know, like Nightmare City, the zombie movie from Italy. That movie is you would love it. I mean, it's just fun, dumb fun, but it is the most ridiculous movie ever. Every time I show it to people, it's always at like a party, and whenever I show it, people be like, "Man, this movie's ridiculous," and I'll lean over and be like, "They haven't even gotten to the aerobic studio yet." And then they laugh, and then there's an aerobic studio, and I'm like, I fucking told you, man. So like, it's a very odd movie, but it's not a great movie by any stretch. It's just very entertaining. This movie is bonkers, and I think it's a phenomenal movie. And I don't fall for like the hype of things being brilliant either. Like, I watched this and I was like, no, this is really good. Damn it.
I'm glad that you loved it.
I did. No, I really did. And just talk about a heavy movie. So if you like movies that challenge you about relationships, about self, about,
if whether or not you are the maker of your own evil.
Yes. Ooh. Ooh. Oh.
One of the best lines in the film.
Man, that's so good. No, the movie's full of great stuff like that. And it's definitely a movie I would say you need to watch at least twice to get it. Because the first go around, I really liked it. The second go around, I loved it. There's just so much to take in. There's no way we would ever be able to talk about all of it at all. Like, but it was really good. And
good.
Now I'm actually sighing because I'm like, but what was the doppelganger for?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough thing to figure out. They don't make it easy to understand, I fear.
Well, so it's easy to forget because the last 20 minutes of that movie, so much happens. So after the parents are dead and the doppelganger escapes, we go to Helen, the school teacher, and she's watching Bob. And it appears that the doppelganger is ringing the doorbell. And for some reason, Bob starts freaking out and goes upstairs and jumps into a bathtub and drowns himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as the doppelganger is like standing in the door, Helen stares off and her eyes are glowing. Man, maybe you're right about the
monologue.
Yeah, about the monologue representing her. Maybe she was Chance. Right? You thought she was Chance, or did you think she was Faith? I'm sorry.
Faith.
Oh, she thought she was Faith?
Because in the monologue, she's talking about how she had to protect her faith. And she was saying something about, like, I have to let, like, Sister Faith go or something.
Huh. That could be why the doppelganger went after her.
It definitely has something to do with the monologue, I think.
Yeah. No, I I love it. I had not thought about that at all. I'm so amped right now. Man, no, I think, well, I guess I know what I'm watching tonight while I suck on my Pedialyte. So, but is there anything else you'd like to say about Possession before we wrap it up in a nice little domestic abuse bow?
I think it's a very weird movie. I love it. It's in my top 5.
Wow, top 5.
Yeah, it is actually.
Nice. No, that's awesome.
Thank you. I think if you want to see a film that has incredible performances, I would say that Isabelle Adjani is the standout in the movie, obviously, but Sam Neill he meets her there in a lot of the scenes. Yeah. I don't know. It's great. You should check it out if you're in the US because it's on Shudder.
Yep.
And it used to be super obscure and no one could find it. And now Shudder has it. So check it out while you can.
For the uninitiated, Shudder is only $5.99 for 1 month.
Yes.
Of service.
I don't have a promo code for Shudder. I'm just
Me neither.
promoting it because I like Shudder.
Yeah, and I like that they have Possession on there. I mean, and a lot of other good films too. So, if you're debating between renting it or just getting Shudder for a month, get Shudder for a month. It might be $1 more, but you'll get a lot more out of it.
For sure.
So,
there is also, I don't know if you can find it online, but I have a copy of Possession, and you can watch the film with commentary from the director, which is very interesting. So I recommend that as well.
I think it's out of print, but I heard that it's coming back into print. There's going to have a new edition, like a standard edition for people to get.
Amazing.
I hope so, because I want to own it now. Obviously, I want to own that. So,
should I show you my copy? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, go grab it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm excited.
It's right over here.
So while she's checking that out, she can't hear us right now. So now I can say bad things. I have nothing bad to say, though.
I spent $40 on this because I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find. Look at how pretty it is.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And
it's
then
embossed. It's got a sheen to the woman's chest on the cover.
Yes.
This is too good.
Right? Look at how cool it is.
Now I want to go on eBay and just find that and pay whatever they ask. I'm the worst.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's a beautiful package.
Right? It's got a little booklet with some fun info in there.
So, before we take off, what's going on Sweet and Spooky right now? Didn't you just posted a review, right?
I did.
I'm playing dumb to help you promote it.
An unpopular review, probably. Actually, everybody's been quite nice. I just posted a review of Renfield. Check it out. I'm not going to tell you whether I liked it or hated it. Go check out the video.
Yeah, the Renfield's the new movie with Nicolas Cage playing Dracula. For those unaware.
Yes, we love Nicolas Cage.
Have you seen Pig?
Yeah, I love
phenomenal that movie.
Oh, for sure.
Anyway.
In oh my goodness, in a week. Is it in a week? Hold on.
Is that your table read?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. It's yes. This Saturday, July 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you're doing a live reading of Tusk. Be there. We're going to Canada.
All right, eh? Well, and I want to mention, if you're listening to this the day it published, that means that tomorrow it will be the live stream. So go to Sweet and Spooky on YouTube. You can just type in Sweet and Spooky. You'll find her. Don't worry. And there'll also be a link in the show notes. Go check out Celeste live streaming. It's a lot of fun. And you guys are going to be doing a table read of Tusk.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
So I love the artwork you made, by the way. I looked at it for like 2 minutes before I realized it was Rocco. You had replaced replaced Justin Long.
Yes, there's actually an inside joke with that I guess I'll tell you about. So when Rocco and I first met as teenagers, the reason I had a big crush on Rocco is because I thought Rocco looked a lot like Justin Long, who was one of my childhood crushes. So this was like meant to happen. I'm like, you're Justin Long, and that's it.
He does. He favors him, or they favor them. Sorry. They definitely favor Justin Long. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, make sure to check out Salise's show. I know I've mentioned it before, but a few people have already told me they subscribed and have said that they've enjoyed your videos. So if you're listening to this, go check them out. Thank you so much, Salise, for hanging out with me and talking about movies. It means the world to me. It really does.
Of course. Anytime.
So we'll be back sooner than you think with more cutting deep into horror. But for now, it's time to say goodnight. Any closing words or guttural screams of unspeakable evil?
No. Yes. Yes! I love unhinged women. Check out Possession. Thank you. We're all about the girlies here.